exciting industry for the cannabis industry, and there's a lot of excitement around the country for New York to succeed, and there's a lot of business interests that are coming into New York as well. We appreciate, Ms. Wright, that you have made it a part of your ethos, your value system, to put New Yorkers first. And that has always been part of the CCB and you personally. So I appreciate that in the role that I play, my small little role in New York. I forgot to introduce myself. I do that often. If anybody knows me, I'm not a very good promoter of myself. My name is Kristin Jordan. I am the CEO of Park Jordan. We are a real estate cannabis brokerage firm. I am also an adjunct professor at LIM College, which is the first, and I believe the only, accredited school that teaches both undergrad and graduate school. We offer a business of cannabis degree. So Tremaine, we've known each other a long time. As we were preparing for this, I was thinking about one of the first times that we met, and that was in your role as an assemblywoman. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your first foray into cannabis.
Yes, so back in 2017, as I was in my first year as an assembly member, we were discussing the then CRTA, the Cannabis Regulatory Act that was proposed and was under consideration in New York State. I, like most legislators, had communities with mixed feelings, and so we began with a Cannabis 101 in that October of 2017, where we had a day-long, well actually I think it was a couple of days, of events at the plaza in our community, Restoration Plaza, to help people develop language around what cannabis is, what its utility might be in their lives. We spent the morning session discussing medicinal cannabis use, and in the afternoon we talked about what would come with adult use and the retail sales and opportunities that might exist in the adult use program that was being planned for New York State. So full circle, 4 years later, we're in a place where New York State is actually passing legislation. It's tweaked a little bit, but not much. Core values still remain. We're talking about equity, we're centering people. New York had a vision where this was going to be an industry that really celebrated New Yorkers and their ingenuity. And we wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to find space in this place, in this cannabis place in the state. And I think that the MRTA has lived up to that expectation. And so it's been full circle. I was fortunate to be a part of the initial conversations, as well as now to be in a place where we are implementing what was ultimately passed.
So you've been a pioneer from the beginning, educating your community. We all know how important educating our community is first. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to know that you value that activity in the community. So you've talked a little bit about previously the fact that you ran a small coffee shop and how important that is, that experience of setting that up as an entrepreneur, and how that translates into our industry because you have that background. Could you speak a little bit about that?
So I think one of the things that's unique about New York State's cannabis law is that we really have a design that has entry points for a lot of small businesses. As we look across this country, we see a lot of our large companies coming into the space, and they're able to launch very quickly. They have experience, they have capital, they have the ability to run everything from seed to sale, and owning their own manufacturing as well as their distribution eases the way. But in New York, where it's separated and disjointed, we do have an opportunity for a lot of small companies to come in. And so I do think that that speaks to how most mom and pops operate in New York State. We're able to enter into the marketplace, find our footing, develop a brand name for ourselves, build community, really have the support of those persons who come to us and find us as their regular spot. And I don't care if you sell jam or if you sell coffee, somebody thinks of you as their regular spot. And that's really what I think that we have to support. There's a certain level of customer service that I think our small businesses are able to give. And it's not to diminish the value of any larger business, because they have their space and their place in the industry as well. And we could not survive without them, because they do some lifting that small businesses can't do. But small businesses do the things that they can't do.
That's right.
And we always have to remember that that's part of the balance. And so I like to continuously lean into having operated, to understanding what are the concerns of operators, How do we receive new information from government? How do we process those changes into our ongoing businesses? What are the impact of cost that changes are going to make on us? Those things are real, and they have reverberating impact in smaller businesses in a way that larger businesses can cushion themselves for. So I like to make sure that I'm consistently looking for the opportunity for new entrants into our marketplace, support networks, as well as space for them to grow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And I don't think that we see that necessarily from regulators in other states. Real attention to the balance of the size of the operators, the opportunity for the marketplace. So I appreciate that consideration. It's right, we've seen in the last couple of months some hiccups along the way, some frustration from operators, perhaps even frustration from municipalities who aren't necessarily informed as to how this rollout should happen. As we transition our conditional operators and license new ones, it appears that we are starting to see a plan put in motion.
So we are. I'm going to say, I know a lot of people were hesitant and surprised. I was like, oh my God, you're doing the assessment. Yes. If we do not continuously rethink what we're doing, examine it, and be positioned to grow and to shift and shape with what the market demands are, then we're not going to be successful. That's what your businesses do. That's what we as a new agency have to do. We've got to be willing to listen. And you're being very kind by saying that the community has only been speaking to us for the past 3 months. You've been speaking to us since we started. And being government, sometimes we have to take a little bit more time to make big shifts, because it's not just impacting one, it's really impacting the many. And so we are trying to figure out, how do we incorporate these changes that have been proposed in a way that's not going to cause harm, that's going to live up to the statements that we've already made, and also provide enough continuity and customer service. I think that that's really what the core is in the assessment that we've seen. We are going to honor the fact that we are here to serve community, and that is really our primary. That's the primary goal in all of this. And so we are going to continuously shape, innovate, and change so that we can meet the goals. We are listening to what people have to say. And I want to say, I hope that people see us responding. It's not always as fast as we all would like, but we're trying to respond. I know in our last meeting, we tried to address a number of those issues that have been popping up in emails and messages from community. How do we reorder, and how do we identify that we are still going to offer priority to people who were asked to get locations? We answered the question for some, others remain. So that means that we're not done. We have to figure that out. What's next?
Yes.
Who else is there that we need to answer some unanswered questions for? And I think that that's really the direction. Yes, we've also extended the amount of time that provisionals, our card provisional licensees have, so that they can open, given time, because we're hearing what the concerns are, and we're trying to come up with a reasonable response that makes sense. I think also the expansion of the locales, where our provisionals can actually open their stores. Having a conversation that says, those provisions made sense when the market was closed, and we didn't know who was opening where, and we were trying to really control the number of people that were opening all over the state. But right now, we have almost 140 stores open.
Yes.
We need to keep pushing and allow people to find space where there's space, and answer the need where there's a need. And so we're hopeful that those types of proposals and changes that we've implemented will answer some of the concerns, but we continue to listen, and we remain poised to change.
You know, it's funny, you're speaking about real estate, and that's near and dear to my heart. Anybody who knows me knows that I ring that bell constantly about that being one of the largest hurdles, aside from access to capital in our industry. And in my personal life, I'm actually supporting some clients in the Kentucky medical application round. And you know, it's funny, I sit in this bubble with you all, and we talk about New York cannabis and New York weed and the program incessantly, and so that's, you know, in my head, and we're all crazy together. But then you go into another state that doesn't have it yet, and it doesn't know what this circus is like, And as I'm starting to talk to other brokers in real estate in Kentucky, I mean, you know, the beginning of the conversation starts with very excitement, and you know, I get the most progressive guys in the office and the guys who know a little bit about weed, and they're excited for this conversation. By the end of the conversation, when I've told them about the pace for which the application is going, the idea that they were doing contingent leases, and so to sell that to landlords is not great. First-time operators, all these challenges. In Kentucky, oddly enough, the licenses will be awarded potentially in October, but communities can opt out after December. So you can be awarded a license, building out your site, and then your community opts out, and you're stuck.
And I think that that's a prime example of this is all new, and we all have to keep our eyes open for what's going on across the entire nation. Because we're talking about descheduling or rescheduling. We're talking about new states coming online. And we also have to figure out, what does that mean for growth for New York State? Where do you all fit in once we have a national market? What do you need from us, and what should we be thinking about? So I know that everyone's worried about what the last assessment said, but start thinking about what we're going to have to be thinking about tomorrow, because the tomorrows are going to be really more important. And we're going to figure out process, but we need to make sure that we're also still thinking business. And where do we fit in this new landscape? Because it is changing quickly across the nation.
TPI makes it a little challenging for me. So I also want to talk about the transition, right? So it's my understanding that we've formally announced that the next CCB meeting will take place on Tuesday, June 11th. I think the agenda has gone up.
Yes, it has.
My guess is that we will see a transition with no hiccups.
I am prayerful.
Can we anticipate that licenses would be issued at the same pace regardless of what transitions are happening?
Oh, the licensing is going to continue. As we've demonstrated on this agenda that's just been posted, we are going to be issuing licenses next week. We are going to continue that work. What we're hoping to do is to improve the pace at which we're able to review licenses and get answers out to people. Because that's really what the bottom line is. We've got to improve our processes so that it makes sense in how people are planning their businesses. Because we don't want to be the example of Kentucky in somebody else's conversation. Right. Yeah. We really do want to get that correct. And currently, we have a huge number of adult use dispensary licenses that are out in the world that have not been operationalized. So we're balancing that. We're balancing the demand for more access to that opportunity as well. And we have a queue of people for whom we haven't even begun looking at applications. Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts. And I operate a small business, and I'm very thankful. I was able to succeed for 10 years. Most of our small businesses that open don't see 10 years if they're retail. I'm talking retail at this moment. So I think that we have to remain aware of what's going on. I think folks hear a large number. They hear, oh, your gross revenue is $1 million, and they think suddenly everybody's a millionaire. And if anybody's been in business for half a second, they know that that's not what it means. It means that you spent $999,000. But that's part of our narrative that we have to communicate, and we have to be clear with people. And I think that we're starting to see our licensees that are more savvy, that understand business, that are able to command the attention of investors, that are able to communicate what does profit look like in this industry. We've seen some great numbers in New York State. I just want to say we've hit over 140 million in sales right now. And 40 million happened in April of this year. I think around just in 1 month. That's right. They did. Our retailers did 40 million in 1 month.
Oh, New York.
That's fantastic. I don't know if that's what it's going to look like. I don't have the May numbers yet. I don't know what they look like comparatively. I know it's a big party in April, so everybody is buying more. But we have to come up with some more celebrations. But those are fantastic numbers. And so we want to see, what does it look like throughout the remainder of the year, or is it always that April's our high point and maybe through the summer dries out? We really need to be able to get a better understanding so that we can understand the life cycle of our businesses, and it'll help us to really understand what's needed and what we need to see more of in this space. There's still consumption that we have not rolled out yet. I think that they're going to add. I'm very biased here. I'm very excited for what consumption looks like in New York State.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
Anybody knows?
I think that that's going to be the thing that really sets New York State apart from anywhere and everybody else.
That's
and
right.
I don't care, you can say, oh, it's all the same, and I'm going to tell you that it's not, because
True.
having a drink at one place is not the same as another.
That's
so
right.
I know that it's going to be something that's really special. But those are the types of things I'm looking forward to, and I'm so excited about.
So in reading the assessment, the report that was handed over to the governor, there were 3 different strategies or key points for moving forward for the transition that I noted and I'd love to talk to you about.
Okay.
So first we've got unclog the backlog.
Definitely.
So as a consultant, and I see many attorneys and consultants in the audience, how many of our folks are all stuck somewhere in the process, right?
And I've gotten your emails if you sent them.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you very
that's
much. No, seriously. I have received your emails. If you send them to me, I have them. They are not lost. We are keeping tally, and we're trying to pinpoint those issues as they come up so that we can come up with collective answers that answer the things that 3, 4, 5 people are writing us about, so that we really know, like, okay, this is the pain point that we need to solve, and then let's continue to move forward. But we do want to unclog the backlog. We don't want 1,000 people waiting for us to answer them.
That's right.
We also don't want everybody to have to email the chair in hopes that she's rerouting it to the next person. We want to come up with efficiencies, and I think that that's some of the stuff that was outlined for us. They were saying, hey, we can help with a better process internally, and some of it's just us having someone that you can contact related to your application, and that has begun. So some of these things have started because they weren't big lifts, but they were processed. It was our blind spot. And so now we see it, it's been identified, and we're trying to answer it without slowing anything down and trying to keep the ball moving. So unclog is definite. That's first and foremost.
And your email address is Tremaine.Wright
at ocm.ny.gov. I think everybody in this room has it. And it's on the website. But those, so I was in office already, so I get the emails, I know how to process them. I'm gonna move them. But that's not what we want. We don't want you to have to take time out to email me. We want to answer the questions and do it proactively. We want to be proactive about how we solve the issues that have already been raised, so that everybody's not repeating the same conversation with us every time they come into contact with us. And so if we get it right, we hope one point of contact for applications is making a big difference.
Huge.
We're streamlining the internal review process. We've brought on some new people to help increase the productivity.
Yes.
So I think that we're on the right track. I am not trying to pretend that we're doing 1,000 approvals or denials at our next meeting. I am saying that we're working on our process, and I think that it is government, and it does take time. There's systems that we're changing. There's a reason that large firms that have 1,000 people working on one internet system they do not just shift their IT and buy new computers and everything changes. They don't go from IBM to Apple. It takes time because you're moving a ship at that point. So we have hundreds of people working for us, and it is going to take a while for us to change the course of a ship. But we are making the small changes that are getting us in the right direction.
Listen, one point of contact, I think everybody in this audience is going to say
They're
that
excited.
is a huge difference. Is to be able to pick up a phone, have a name for somebody, understand where you are in that process.
Yes.
That is going to quell a lot of concerns.
Yes.
So I'm seeing that we're short for time.
Yes.
But I wanted to thank you, Ms. Wright, for the work that you do. Thank you for this term that you've served. We look forward to seeing you for your next term, and we look forward to supporting you in the transition.
Thank you so much, and I hope that everyone in New York State. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. Thank you, Chair Wright. This was fabulous, and as a follow-up, I think one of the most energetic and interesting points of the whole chat was about capital funding. When you talked about funding in 2 seconds, 2 minutes. Where's Wall Street? Now you're funded, now you're not, is next. So you might want to stay in your seats and stick around. Thank you, Chair Wright. Thank you, Kristin. Fabulous.